Hello again, I am Blunty. We are, as I record this, perilously close to the actual, really and truly release of Cyberpunk 2077 after an arduous journey to launch day filled with many stories about crunch and delays and early reviews, which they're not allowed to use their own footage. They have to use canned footage pre-recorded because the reviews are using a game that hasn't been patched properly, so there's lots of performance issues and tremendous amounts of bugs and glitches and crashes, and it is the weirdest clusterfrag of a launch I've ever come across, but we're all still pretty excited for it, aren't we? I know I am. You like the t-shirt, by the way? Shout out to Bandai Namco Australia, who are distributors of the game in Australia. They sent me a couple of t-shirts. There's this one, a black one. I like the black one better. Is yellow my color? I don't think I've ever owned a yellow t-shirt in my life. I've had t-shirts with a bit of yellow on them, but never just... I'm not sure about this. It's too bright. It doesn't suit me grouchy personality. I want to talk about performance expectations today, because in a recent video when I reviewed and looked at Gigabyte's Eagle variation of the RTX 3070, I opened out that video because I was preparing that video on the day that CD PROJEKT RED announced the specification expectations and system requirements for their game, and it just so happened the 3070 fell right in line with what I would consider to be the ideal experience. Ray tracing set to ultra and at 1440p, because quite frankly, if you're playing on a PC, the difference between 1440p and 4K it's a bit muddy a lot of the time. I would rather play at 1440p and get better frame rates than 4K and sacrifice some frame rates. I've talked about this many times before. So with my brand new 3070, I was very excited to find out that I could expect to be playing high settings, ray tracing and ultra at 1440p and get their ideal recommended experience, which was fantastic. And to get the ultra super duper experience, you were looking at RTX 3080. I think these were announced just before the 3090 was actually hitting reviewers and stuff like that. So 3080/3090 put in there. The problem is, it's not really true, as it turns out. I'm not going to get the ideal experience with my 3070 at 1440p because let's flick over here to videocards.com. Now, today, Nvidia announced a whole bunch of new stuff to support DLSS 2.0 and ray tracing, just a fistful of new games that are supporting it. And RTX Minecraft, for example, is out of beta right now in an official release, so that's on the list, for example. And along with it was final confirmation that, yes, DLSS 2.0 will be supported in Cyberpunk, enabling us to use that sort of little cheaty system to get better frame rates. But as you're looking at here on these charts, now these charts Nvidia didn't publish with today's news. Apparently videocards.com or someone affiliated with them dug into the file name structure of the other charts that they did publish and found these. So these are leaked charts, but they are from Nvidia themselves. They'll probably be put up after the game launches because I don't know why. Anyway, let's have a look at this. Cyberpunk 2077, Nvidia DLSS turned on at 4K. In a DLSS performance mode, not quality mode, performance mode, ultra graphics, ray tracing, using an i9 10900K and 32GB RAM and all that sort of stuff. So this should be the ideal experience, right? Well, no. Turns out even a 3090 can't get 60 FPS with these settings. The 3080 can barely get 50 FPS. And the 2080 Ti, the last gen comparison point, doesn't even get 40 FPS with DLSS on. Without DLSS on, the 3090 can't even get 30 FPS. It's 22 FPS, which is ridiculous. This game is either incredibly hard to run or incredibly badly optimized, perhaps both. But 22 FPS at 4K on a 3090 for crying out loud. But yeah, it points out how important DLSS is. We love DLSS, because you can barely notice it's on unless you go looking for the telltale signs, and it gets you a tremendous boost in frame rate while keeping all the pretty stuff turned on. That's why we like it, and that's why AMD have to play catch up, because they don't have an equivalent ready yet. They're working on it, but it's not ready yet. So yeah, I'm expecting AMD cards to fall over themselves on this game. Unfortunately, I won't be doing any testing on that because the 6000 series card I had to go back, and they haven't sent me anything else to test yet. So I'll just be sticking to my own 3070 from Gigabyte. So let's scroll down. 1440p. This is where I want it to be at. So 1440p DLSS in quality mode, ultra graphics, ray tracing on, etc., etc., etc. The RTX 3090 will now exceed 60 FPS with the help of DLSS. Without it, still can't even get there, 44. The 3070, the one I'm running, without DLSS, can't even get 30 frames a second. With DLSS, can't even get 50 frames a second. This was the recommended card. This is why I'm upset about this, because this is a first-person perspective game, all right? Frame rate is real important on this sort of stuff, especially if you're on PC. You want that 60. Their recommendation for a card should have been something that can achieve 60 FPS, not 49, and without DLSS, not 28 FPS. I can't help but feel misled by their recommended system specs when apparently their target was 30 FPS. No, that's not what PC players expect. That's not what we're aiming for. That's not our target. That's not what we want. When you say this is the recommended specs, what we expect is this is what you need to get 60 FPS minimum. Stable. Right, so let's go down to 1080p. Who games at 1080p anymore? Come on. Who in the enthusiast PC gaming sphere games at 1080p except for esports type jackasses? And ever had a conversation with one of those people? Oh my God. Oh, so out of touch with real gaming. Unbelievable. I had so many arguments with those fools. So I'm just baiting them right now. 1080, again, DLSS quality mode, same system specs, everything. The 3070 can get 70 FPS with DLSS on. Without DLSS, at 1080p, an RTX 3070 will barely get 46 FPS. Woe betide if you're running anything less than that. Or an AMD card for that sake. I can't wait to find out what the AMD cards do with this game, because without the help of DLSS, it looks like this thing is an absolute pig of a thing to run. So the 3090, without the help of DLSS, it cracks about 67. The 3080, the top end card that more people are likely to have, because hardly anybody has the 3090. Let's be fair. It's only the stunt, YouTube channels like Linus Tech Tips who build those stunt rigs that aren't really practical in any proper way. So the 3080 is a more common, sort of highest of the high-end card that people are likely to have in the machine. The 3070 is going to be the overwhelming majority of people aiming for that premium PC experience. And then you've got the more budget-conscious guys running the 3060 Ti and stuff like that. The 3080 can't get 60 frames a second without the help of DLSS. With it, it gets about 90, which is cool. 3070, 45, we talked about that. 3060 Ti barely scrapes at 40 without the help of DLSS, gets over 60 with DLSS. But this is at 1080p. The 3060 Ti people are probably targeting 1080p. I would have recommended that card for 1440p, but not for this game, apparently. So I'll be doing some testing. Like the best card I have to my hand at the moment is the 3070 Log Stalker. Now, I do have a 2060 here as well. All the other cards I've got are the 10,000 series. I've got the 5700 XT to hand, but none of the 6000 series from AMD. So yeah, I'll be sticking around just looking at the 2070 as my sort of touchstone for performance and trying to find the balance and the visual differences and stuff like that. I'll be doing some comparison videos and things like that. So subscribe and if you want to see that. We'll be streaming it, of course. But yeah, this news today and these leaked charts makes me very worried about the kind of experience I'm going to get. All that said, it's not necessarily a high-action first-person shooter, like sort of a lot of the military shooters and stuff tend to be. A lot of it's going to be a fairly passive experience, a lot of dialogue stuff, so maybe that high frame rate isn't going to affect most of the gameplay, but in the parts of the gameplay it does affect, where reaction speed and lag and sort of frame time and all that sort of stuff really, really counts. I'm worried about the gun combat. That's what I'm saying. But we'll see. We'll see. I also like to have my field of view sort of wider than default as well. So that's going to chunk down the frame rates that I personally get as well, because the wider field of view you get, the more stuff has to render, of course. Particularly when you're talking about ray tracing. Wider field of view kicks the hell out of ray tracing performance because, well, all of a sudden it's got lots more stuff to keep track of. So, I don't know, man. What are you guys running? Are you disappointed by this? Is this fall with your expectations? Do you feel kind of jerked off that these recommended system specs weren't even targeting 60 FPS? it looks like they were targeting just get above 30. That'll do. For PC spec. For PC. Oh. Can't wait to see this thing on the consoles. I do apparently have a console code coming to me as well. The guys at Bandai Namco are treating me quite well. Got a few t-shirts, but also getting code for PC and Xbox as well. So when the Xbox patch comes out to do the ray tracing on the Series X, we'll be looking at that as well in the future. But I'll just be looking at the base level stuff without the next-gen enhancements at launch. So if you have any questions about either or both of those versions of the game, what you want me to look at, what you want me to test, what you're interested in, various settings, resolutions, all that kind of stuff, feel free to leave it in the down below. I'll test as much as practically possible and what I think is personally interesting. But I don't know. Sometime today, I should be getting the codes to do the install. So I'll start testing. But I don't know, man. It's got me worried. Got me a little bit concerned. We also have to wonder what version of the game these tests were done with, because I heard that the early review ones running through GOG had some sort of DRM which was buggering up performance even worse. So were these tests done with that version? Were these tests done with like the Steam version? Which patch was it? Was it the day one patch? Maybe that's why these charts weren't published, because we just don't know. Maybe these were just temporary charts. They tested with what they had, and they'll update the charts properly when, you know, the day one proper patch version launches. We'll see. Interested to hear what you think, though. Thank you for watching. I am Bloody. We'll catch you next time. Thank you, as always, to the Patreon scrolling by up above. And if you haven't followed me on Twitch already, please do so, because I will be streaming this game. And we'll see.